If I were Poland, I would be worried, to say the least. Look at this buildup of German troops on the Polish border. Judging by history, this is not meaning anything good for Poland. Hey everyone, so just a little reminder, this is part 2 of a 2-part video series. I decided after the fact that since the video was getting too long, I'd rather split it up into 2 parts. So if you haven't seen part 1 already, please watch the first part first. And with all that said, please enjoy part 2 of our Byzantium campaign. However, just as I say that, there is another Austrian invasion of Byzantium, and the Byzantines have decided at this point to give up against the Italians, to give the Italians back their central lands here. They are going to win against Austria, I think, with the North German help, or more specifically, North Germany is going to win against Austria and Byzantium's going to be fine. But losing the Rhone region, really bad for Byzantium. Not just a high population region, but also this is now the capital region of Italy, which means that Byzantium will not be able to reconquer this unless they reconquer all the rest of Italy first. So this might be a permanent loss of Rome, of their, if we want to call it that, original city for the Byzantines. And as we predicted, not losing anything to Austria here, just because Austria was beaten by the North Germans. And we see the Byzantines involved in another war, which is a war against the French, as well as Lucca and Parma in the French liberation of Alsace-Lorraine, which Germany is quickly going to crush, or the NGF I should say, is quickly going to crush France, of course, in this war. I don't know if Byzantium is going to be able to take any of their lands around here. They, of course, have course on both Lucca and Parma, but it looks like they're not taking the lands. So Italy is now jumping in to take those lands, and yeah, Germany won that war pretty easily and pretty swiftly, and now France might just crush Italy. Ethiopia, one of the big success stories so far of this game, has managed to take out southern Egypt, which allowed Byzantium to finally annex the last part of Egypt here in the north. And Byzantium has decided not to create any colonies in this game, which is now allowing the French, yes, to take over southern Libya here. November 1885, and we see another Byzantine war, this time to take it, to annex all of Italy. That's a really interesting one. And Italy has helped by Spain and Baden, so the Italian alliance is not super strong in this war. Italy will win initially, at least here, against the Byzantines. Germany will, of course, crush Baden. I think the big question in this war is going to be if Germany can find a way to fight the Italians. If Germany can find a way to walk through either Austria or Switzerland or France here and help Byzantium out against the Italians, this might be a super important war for Byzantium. I believe if Byzantium wins this war and manages to pretty much become ruler of Italy, that's gonna set them up to be, as I said before, like one of the greatest powers into the late game. If they lose against Italy and maybe even lose more territory against Italy here, they're still gonna be powerful, but they're not gonna be nearly powerful enough to take, for example, the French lands or the British lands in the late game. So I don't know if I'm even rooting for either side here, but I believe it's gonna be, and it just became even more interesting. So Austria got involved and also declared war, I believe, on Byzantium, right? Austria declared that war? Yes, with Russia. So now we have Russia and Austria also at war with Byzantium, which might not even be too terrible for the Byzantines, because this means that Germany now has a path into Italy through Austria. Russia, of course, is gonna be a problem for Byzantium, but with North German help, I believe they can win against Russia. But what are you doing, Germany? Germany had a chance there to really save its ally, but deciding not to do so, deciding to move all its armies back north. So still in the balance, the Byzantines have managed to transport significant parts of their army over into Italy now, and are actually crushing the Italians on their own without German help. So that's really good for them. But here comes Spain. Here comes, oh, okay, but it's too late. The Spanish land armada here couldn't save the Italians, and so Byzantium annexed all of Italy. We're also at the halfway point of the game at this point in 1886, so 50 years after game start. So let's take a quick look how this shifted the power balance. This means Byzantium now at 48 million people, ahead of Germany, ahead of Austria, ahead of Japan, ahead of USA, one of the strongest nations in the world. Only France, Russia, and UK are great powers ahead of them in terms of population. Also in terms of factories, the Byzantines have the most factories in the world now. They also have the third most provinces in the world, and they still have amazing literacy. So now I think they have everything they need to become one of the top 3 great powers in this game. They have a really large population, large parts of which are accepted pops. They have a strong industry, they have strong literacy. The only thing they're lacking right now is brigades, but I believe their German allies are going to keep them safe for long enough so they can build up and get the kind of strength they need into the late game. However, right now, Russia declaring war on Byzantium, or no, Byzantium declaring war on Russia. That's what's going on here. Even more interesting, because this means Germany is not involved in the war, and now Byzantium is going to have to stand on its own 2 feet and try to defeat the Russians on its own, which I don't believe they're going to be able to do. Byzantium really strong, as I said, but Russia, of course, even greater population, and we saw in the first Byzantine-Russian war that in the end, Russian manpower defeats Byzantine technology. So we're gonna see how it goes this time, but I believe this might not end well for the Byzantines. Yes, once again here we see Russian manpower really winning this war. And what that's gonna mean is that obviously Russia's gonna release Modena again, and Russia's gonna I believe they're gonna release not just this one little piece of land that Modena was before, but okay, never mind. Okay, I thought Modena was a bigger state here and Russia's gonna release all of that land, but it appears that's only 2 provinces here that they're gonna release from Byzantium. So as long as Russia doesn't take any land of its own, again, this is not gonna hurt Byzantium too much in terms of how much land and population they have. Yeah, Russia didn't take any provinces. It's only gonna mean they lose 2 provinces, but once again, the Byzantine army reset to 0. And they still have their North German allies, I believe. Yes, they do. But Byzantium's really dependent on Germany. Byzantium is starting so many wars, is trying to reconquer so much land that they just never have the time to really build up their army and to really be a competitive power in terms of their army strength against, for example, Russia. So that means should the Byzantine alliance with the North Germans fail at some point, or should Byzantium get into an offensive war against another big power like, say, France, what's happening here? Byzantium wants to annex Parma and France is helping Parma. So this is a war that I believe Byzantium is again going to lose because it's an offensive war, which means their North German allies aren't helping them here. And losing this war might not be too bad again for Byzantium. France doesn't really want any Byzantine lands. Maybe they're going to take one state. But yeah, it once again is going to mean that any new division that Byzantium can build, or any new brigade, I should say, that Byzantium can build, immediately going to be crushed by the French. So if Byzantium continues the game like this and continues to start wars it cannot win like this, they are just gonna never have an army to really win against any great powers, and they might start losing territory soon. Alright, Byzantium did the reasonable thing here, gave up trying to conquer Parma from the French and accepted, I believe, a white peace with the French. So this should hopefully now finally give Byzantium some breathing space and some time to build all those brigades. As we see, pretty much recruiting in most Italian provinces, at least North Italian provinces. So there's still a lot of brigades that Byzantium could build if they finally, well, are at peace for a long enough time to build them. And Byzantium pretty much immediately started the same war again, which I believe is gonna have the same result of France just defeating Byzantium, destroying Byzantine armies, and Byzantium being unable to conquer the lands it wants to conquer. Yes, once again, it's a white peace. Once again, nothing that Byzantium could achieve there. I believe 1890, good year maybe to look at the rest of the world. So once again, USA decided to create an absolute abomination here in North America. It's disgusting, please stop. South America doing nothing as always. Or well, I'm being unfair here, of course there's some minor wars, but Nothing big happening in South America as we're used from Victoria 2. Africa has pretty much been split up between Britain and France, with one really interesting thing, I think, which is Austria also getting some land here. The other interesting thing, of course, Byzantium, but we know that. And yeah, Australasia looking like this, nothing too major going on there. Also, I believe I just saw, yeah, Byzantium released Lithuania from Russia, so really interesting. That might on the one hand be cool, because it means, of course, yeah, Byzantium was able to get Russia to do as they please. However, it also means that Germany is now blocked off from invading Russia by Lithuania. So as long as Lithuania stays in the Byzantine sphere of influence here, that's not too bad, because the Germans in a war against Russia could always go through Byzantium as long as they're still allied. But if it should drop out of Byzantium's sphere, this might mean that Germany is no longer really able to send any help against the Russians in another potential war between Byzantium and Germany and Russia. Austria starting another suicide war against Byzantium. This is of course not going to work, and of course Germany is just gonna crush Austria once more. Also, I gotta see, fascinating to see that Bavaria manages to be a great power, at the same time Russia is not a great power. This also really gives Byzantium free rule pretty much over Eastern Europe, and we see that all of Romania, for example, is in the Byzantine sphere. Austria also back to being a great power, so that might not be too great for Byzantium in the long term. But yeah, 1892, we're a bit over halfway into the game, and of course I don't know, but I believe we're also probably at about the halfway point in this video, or maybe at a bit more than the halfway point. And just because I want to know how many people are actually watching this video this long and are actually watching this random part in the middle of a really long video, if you're still watching, please just write the name of this province, which is Zanjan, Z-A-N-J-A-N, into the comments, and don't explain why you're writing that. So I think it would be really cool if everyone who's watching right now just writes this completely random name into the comments, and none of us just explain to anyone what's going on. And so everyone else who doesn't watch the full video is just going to be confused what the hell's going on and why there's comments saying Zanjan. Alright, finally Byzantium is probably going to be able to conquer Modena, because no allies are helping Modena this time. So yeah, that should be a quick and easy war for the Byzantines. Austria and France now are declaring war on Bavaria, which will mean that Austria wins against Bavaria, because there's no way that Bavaria is going to win here. But long term, this might not be too great for Austria, because it will mean that Bavaria is weakened. Bavaria is maybe going to drop out of great power status, and that could mean German unification. And NGF is already an incredibly powerful country at this point. If they get the South German states too, because Bavaria drops out here, then NGF is just going to be completely unstoppable, which is good for Byzantium, of course, because they're still allied with the NGF. And we have another war. This time it's to conquer Parma, and this time NGF is helping Byzantium, so it should be a pretty easy war for the NGF-Byzantium alliance to get Parma too. Byzantium really consolidating its lands. Interestingly, the only kind of region where it has cores and is not expanding too much is North Africa. I wonder why they're not invading Tripoli yet, for example. Also, of course, Spain, where they could still take territory, but that's pretty far away. Yeah, I'm kind of confused as to why Byzantium isn't taking Tripoli, Tunis, and Algeria here. If I were Poland, I would be worried, to say the least. Look at this buildup of German troops on the Polish border. Judging by history, this is not meaning anything good for Poland. Here is another war between Byzantium and France that I don't really understand, to be quite honest. Like, did Byzantium just conquer Lucca? I believe, okay, Byzantium just conquered Lucca, and now France is trying to restore Lucca, and I completely missed Byzantium conquering Lucca. But yeah, this time it's a 1v1 between Byzantium and the French, although the French also fighting the Spanish, so that might help end up helping the Byzantines. But so far it looks like France has more units here. And yeah, Byzantium pretty bare in terms of the armies it has around its empire. Also, of course, this war has an African front, because the Byzantine Egypt and the French colonies in Africa are touching here. In Africa, it looks like we're looking at a Byzantine victory. They seem to have the overall numbers advantage here. But in Italy, which is, I think, the more important front, France is doing really well, and France has the bigger armies and more armies here. So we might see France releasing releasing Lucca from Byzantium. And Lucca will actually be getting all of this state, I believe, if France successfully releases them. So that will split the Byzantine Italian territories in two and will obviously not be good for the Byzantines. Interesting how the tables have turned. After twice invading and destroying Byzantium, now the Russian armies are trying to liberate Byzantine territories in northern Italy because Russia is helping its Spanish allies against France. So this might end up saving Byzantium from being defeated by France here. And we see yet another Austrian invasion of Byzantium, but Russia is helping the Austrians this time. And Russia already, if we remember, has its armies all throughout Byzantine territory. Russia was just helping the Byzantines fight France, and now Russia is actually fighting Byzantium and fighting France. So we have a three-way war going on in northern Italy, and we have the Germans coming into Austria, defeating Austria easily, as we've seen before, and also fighting the Russians here in the east. So really big, really interesting war, I think. I'd say the most likely outcome is that the Austrians will be crushed and will not take Byzantine lands. But this could still mean, yeah, that's what we're seeing, by the way. This could still mean, of course, now that France can liberate Lucca here from Byzantium. However, France really occupied with fighting the Russians, really occupied with fighting the Spanish. So in the end, it might just be enough so Byzantium manages to hold on to all its lands here in Italy. And here is Russia coming in a second time to liberate Byzantine North Italy. After, well, helping them at first, then fighting them, now helping them again. And in the end, Byzantium has one really strong, really big army, which might be all they need to defeat the French and drive them back out of Italy, especially with all this Russian help now. So yeah, it definitely looks like the fortune of war has finally turned, and now Byzantium is besieging its last occupied provinces in Italy and actually starting to siege down French provinces. So I think the interesting question here is if this is going to mean that Byzantium is able to take some French lands, like maybe Corsica or its North African cores here. So far, I believe they have not added any war goals like that. But now that the war is turning and is finally going good for them, we might see that very soon. And finally, after many, many years of war, Byzantium was able to get a peace here with the French. Well, it was a victory, of course, for them, but a hard-fought victory. The armies once again decimated, rebellions going on by communists here in Syria. And one more interesting fact, Austria here is allied to France and Russia now. So if Byzantium wants to conquer any more of its cores here from the Austrians, they are gonna have to fight this coalition of countries. And I believe even with German help at this point, they might not be able to win against all three of these countries at once. So we have crossed into the 20th century, and I believe it might once again be an interesting time to look at some statistics. Byzantium right now at 51 million pops, behind NGF now. They've fallen behind a little bit, even though they conquered all of Italy. I believe mostly due to just how devastating all these wars were and how much population Byzantium has lost in all of these wars. Still, of course, going really strong, still having a really strong population, still having really, really good industry, good literacy, and still having a really low brigade count, which might in fact be the most important statistic here, because it means that I believe Russia on its own would be able to easily defeat Byzantium. Maybe even Austria at this point might be able to defeat Byzantium, unless of course Byzantium has help from its ally in North Germany. But Byzantium at this point too weak to start any more offensive wars against great powers, so we might not see the Byzantine liberation of Austrian Italy or of these French provinces anytime soon. The Great War is raging across Europe, but Byzantium's not a part of it. It's actually a war between Germany and UK versus Russia, Austria and France. and it looks like I was mistaken before, and it looks like Germany is able on its own to defeat all of these three great powers. So definitely, if Byzantium could get Germany into a war against these, that would be a war they could win. But yeah, this Great War, let's see what it's gonna result in. It's gonna result in Poland, Lithuania getting Latvia. Interesting that Poland, Lithuania is gonna get back into this game. And okay, we have an autosave here, 1 second. And they're also gonna take Franche-Comté from France, and UK wants a colony. Byzantium is trying to use this opportunity to take back land from the Austrians. However, this war now with Byzantium versus Austria also includes Spain, which might really cause Byzantium some trouble. Also, the Great War just ended, and Germany formed immediately after the end of the Great War. Also got Franche-Comté from France, got, of course, before Bohemia from the Austrians. So this is a pretty much unstoppable Germany here in the center of Europe. But of course, what we're interested in is how Byzantium is doing. So on the Balkans front, they are really crushing the Austrians. The Austrians, after the Great War, of course, not really having any divisions. But we see Russia coming in from the east, and we see Spain coming in from the west. So this might end up being a really interesting war. So yeah, it seems Spain isn't doing much. Of course, France, Austria, and Russia not able to build any armies after having just lost the Great War. Their armistices, I think, dictate that they can't build any new armies, so Byzantium can just freely occupy them. But the really interesting question here is, does Russia still have enough divisions, and can Russia get them here and siege Byzantium fast enough to save its Austrian allies from being pretty much taken apart by the Byzantines? So it looks like with its 3 ticking war scores against Austria, Byzantium is going to be able to win this war and is going to be able to take lots of Austrian land. They also want West Sahara now, which is an Austrian province apparently. Is it right over here? West Morocco, Sahara, West Sahara. Okay, so also Byzantium wants this region right here, wants to now start colonizing more of Algeria. But yeah, there's the peace deal. Byzantium taking really, really strong lands in northern Italy. Not quite uniting its lands here, which would have been really good for them, but still big victory for Byzantium, and now they're once again looking really, really strong. We have a crisis brewing in which Germany and Byzantium are ending up on opposite sides, and I believe if this crisis becomes a war, that's gonna be horrible for Byzantium, because it's gonna mean that the UK and Germany will invade them. Okay. They did the smart thing here and accept the terms set by the UK, and thus prevent a war, because any war in Europe right now, to be honest, is gonna be won by whatever side has Germany. I just noticed that I haven't looked at the scores of the countries in a long time, so let's do that. Overall, Byzantium right now at the number 4 spot, the 2 real gigapowers of the world being Germany and the UK. Then we have Byzantium and the USA behind them. In terms of prestige, we have... Oh, sorry, I just looked at prestige. I'm dumb. In terms of industry, we have Byzantium a bit further behind. Actually, even Japan has a bigger industry than Byzantium at this point, along the USA, France, UK, and Germany. And in terms of military, Byzantium, again, number 4 spot behind USA, Germany, and UK. Just because we played as them last time, or we served them last time, I should say. Really interesting to see that Poland, Lithuania has managed to become independent this game, which is not something you see often in Victoria 2. So really cool, and really proud of our boy PLC for managing to do that here. And the next war started. This time Byzantium wants to get South Tyrol from Austria, and they have Germany on their side, so this is going to be an easy war for the Byzantines, despite Russia, France, and Austria all being their enemies, just because all 3 of these countries got defeated big time last war, and so have basically no armies at this point that they could use to offer any resistance. So Byzantium can just get whatever they want, I think, at this point from Austria. So yeah, they're taking South Tyrol, Istria, and Slovenia. We see even Poland, Lithuania feeling strong enough at this point to take some land from the Austrians. So that might be the more interesting or more balanced war here, where PLC could potentially take a lot of land from the Austrians and from the Russians. Yeah, Byzantium easily winning that war against the Austrians, which means that Byzantium at this point has all its land that they can take, or that they have cores on, from the Austrians, and that, well, they have connected Italy to their heartland. So they're in a really, really good spot, allied to the greatest power in Europe, themselves being arguably the second greatest power in Europe. All I believe there is left for them to do in this game is to try and get their one province here from France, their holdings in Spain, and maybe some more land in North Africa. If that's what they want to do, I believe they're gonna achieve those things, but if they just stay in their current state, then I believe they are still gonna manage to be extremely powerful and to be in probably the top 4 great powers by the end of the game. I just want to point out, Poland-Lithuania was actually able to get one state from the Austrians here, which is incredibly impressive that AI PLC managed to defeat Russia, Austria and France, of course, when they didn't really have divisions, but still. Now they're finally getting defeated by the French and also by the Polish, but still big props to PLC, my personal hero, I think, of this campaign. So it's 1914, historical start of World War I, and I just wanted to say, I believe at this point, if the Byzantine-German alliance continues, we're not really going to see any more interesting wars in Europe, because this alliance is just going to be able to destroy absolutely everyone. So yeah, I hope that they break their alliance with each other. Or maybe there's a crisis where they take opposite sides, because otherwise we might have a pretty boring last 20 years of the game. But that's fine too, of course. We had lots of excitement already so far, and yeah, we'll see how it goes. So Germany just annexed what little was left of Austria in this game, and before that they released Hungary from the Austrians, which of course only makes Germany even stronger, and Germany is already, I believe, by far the strongest nation in the world. Well, in terms of brigades, the UK is still ahead, but yeah, Germany definitely insanely strong. We see here 130 million population, which is more than USA and Russia. Byzantium at 85, so also really, really strong, but number 4 in the world. If we look at the rank, also Byzantium number 4 power. So yeah, I think for the last 15 years of the game that we have left, I really hope we're gonna see a big war between these two. Otherwise, I believe this campaign is pretty much over and we're not gonna see anything too interesting happen. Ooh, this could be good, this could be good. We have a crisis brewing in which Byzantium wants to acquire Valencia from Spain, and the UK is backing Byzantium. However, the Netherlands, that opposes this move, is backed by Germany and France. So this is going to result in a gigantic clash in Europe. Gigantic clash where Byzantium is gonna fight Germany with the help of UK. Just to remind you real quick, UK is, according to the game, the strongest land power in the game. However, all of their strength, or at least most of their strength, is of course in India, and I don't think they can get these divisions over into Europe. Maybe they can get rights to walk through this area, or oh, this is actually all in the spheres of influence, so the UK might be able to walk through here. But yeah, let's see how this war is going. So real quick, just to remind you, it's the Second Great War between Byzantium, UK, Lithuania and Ethiopia versus Netherlands, Spain, Germany, France and Russia even getting involved on this side. So in terms of the pure stats here, it looks like the Byzantine side has the advantage, but if we look at it diplomatically, Byzantium is really pretty much surrounded here in Europe. So yeah, I think this is a really interesting big war, so I think I'm just gonna keep recording throughout this war and show you the whole thing going down. If Germany is as strong as I think they are, and if the UK armies from India do not manage to make the war into Europe, and it does not look like they do manage that, then I believe this is gonna be the great clopping of Byzantium, and I believe this is gonna be, well, not the end of Byzantium, but this is gonna be a really horrible war for Byzantium. We can see here Russia wants to annex Lithuania so far, Netherlands want to humiliate Byzantium, and yeah, this war is going horrible for the Byzantine side. They're at minus 50 from battles, so really not looking good for them. Yeah, I believe what's really fucking them over here, again, all the UK armies, all the UK strength locked into India, not helping in this war. UK doesn't really have any transport navy around this area, it seems, also to get these stacks into Europe. And so yeah, we basically just see the Byzantine Empire being occupied by France, by its former ally Germany, and by Russia. Let's take a real quick look now at the middle of this war at the brigade counts. We see the UK has the most brigades, but after that Germany, France and Russia all ahead of Byzantium at this point. So with all the UK brigades not really helping, yeah, this war is over, and this war is a big loss for the Byzantines. Let's see if they're actually gonna lose any land. West Sahara, not too bad. Western Mali, not too bad. So yeah, it looks like Byzantium's not going to lose a lot of land this war, but they are of course going to lose population from all these occupations. They lost their entire army, and so all of that combined could mean that in the last 10 or so years of the game, we are actually going to see a bit of a resurgence, with maybe some countries taking back some land from Byzantium. Although as I look at the map, Austria isn't here anymore, so they can't retake land. Italy isn't here anymore, so they can't retake land. Egypt isn't here anymore, so they can't retake land. So who is really left who could even take any course from the Byzantines? Does France have anything? No, France has no course. So yeah, war's over. Byzantium lost one state here to the Germans, but otherwise their empire appears pretty much untouched. Okay, another colony, but not too important over here that they lost. But yeah, big war that Byzantium just lost completely. They are now down to, let's see, where can I find them? I can find them here. They are down to 30 brigades. So only less than a tenth of what Germany has at this point. So yeah, if anyone wants to attack Byzantium, now is a golden chance. Their alliance with Germany is over and they are really weak, but I think what we can say is that Byzantium did a good job at removing all that would harm them. So of course Austria wasn't really its achievement, but Byzantium completely removing Italy and Egypt out of the game, which means that there's no one left who wants land from them at this point. And so even their weakness that they have right now is not going to be exploited, because no one wants to exploit it. The only country that I can think of that exists and has cores on Byzantium is Romania, or maybe Algeria. Yeah, Algeria also has some cores here. Do we see a war? Yes, we see a war, but I believe, yeah, okay, it's Romania versus Russia here, so nothing that Byzantium is concerned with. So yeah, that was a really big war. That was a really big loss for Byzantium, but again, I believe they're still in a good position to make it into 1936 in one piece, to survive the last 10 years, just because there's no one left who would harm them. We are in the year 1927, and the Hungarian liberation of Eastern Siebenbürgen has resulted in another war between Germany and Byzantium, which is of course going to end the same way as the last war, with Germany just completely stomping Byzantium into the ground and enforcing its will upon anyone they want at this point. And some more wars started in Europe, namely the German liberation of British Ost-Hanover, which, if you're confused, is this tiny island right here, which means that Germany is completely destroying Russia right now, and also probably gonna completely destroy the UK very soon. And what was the other war? Yeah, France is trying to liberate some land from the Spanish. But yeah, the Germans already won their war and got their island, as you would expect, so not really too interesting. So we have about 5 years left to the game, and at this point I want to start, well, putting in my final notes, final thoughts on this game already, because there might be another war, but we know how every war is going to end at this point, namely in a German victory. So yeah, how did Byzantium do? I believe overall Byzantium performed pretty well. Like, they managed to reconquer a good part of their cores, pretty much all in the Balkans, except the little part Germany took now in the end. Pretty much all of Italy, except for tiny parts. All of the Levant, all of Egypt. They didn't really bother taking Northern Africa or Southern Spain, but those are not the most important regions anyways. So yeah, overall, Byzantium performing really well in terms of how much land they took. Militarily speaking, more of a mixed bag. Like, we saw Byzantium win lots and lots of wars against the smaller powers, but whenever they fought a great power, usually they only won if Germany helped them. And as soon as Germany switched sides and Germany started to oppose Byzantium, that all ended. And now Byzantium is losing wars, but so is everyone else in the world, so we really can't blame them. In terms of their great power ranking, the Byzantines are now on the number 5 spot. So, well, not in the top 3 as I predicted, not in the top 4, so not on the left side of the great powers here, because, well, mostly Japanese industry and Japanese navy have pushed them out in the end. But if we look at the ratings, Byzantium still has the 5th largest industry and still has a pretty sizable military presence and okay prestige. It really suffered from the last couple wars, of course. So yeah, also in terms of the score, a great power, but not one of the greatest powers, and definitely nowhere near the hyperpower of this campaign, which is Germany. If we continue looking through here, we can see the total populations. Byzantium just under 100 million people, so they really grew a lot. Number 5 spot in the world, beaten only by USA with its massive migration, Germany which is with its super powerful modifiers, as well as China and UK, which of course hold the most populous regions of the map, so it's pretty obvious that they are the number 1 and 2 space here. Let's just quickly see what this war is about. Yeah, another Hungarian liberation. We know how it's gonna go. Yeah, not even really worth looking at. It's just gonna be a German victory anyways. Other than that, let's look at some more stats for this game. In terms of provinces, Byzantium has the 3rd most in the world actually, so really cool for them. 246 provinces, only beaten by Russia and UK, which start with the most provinces in this game, so that's pretty good for Byzantium. Also in terms of factories, 2nd most factories in the world, which might be a result of having so many provinces and also so many states, so they really have their industry spread out across a large land and across many states here. Their literacy, not in the absolute top of the world, but at 86%, pretty good, respectable respectable literacy. While the brigade count obviously suffered extremely from that war with Germany, so not among the top countries here. And their navy also not among the top countries, although I believe the Byzantine navy, mostly consists of dreadnoughts or of, the really good big battleships of this game. So still might be a very strong competitive navy. Let's just for comparison see, Germany has a smaller navy, so at least in one theater, Byzantium is more powerful than Germany, maybe even more powerful than the UK, who knows. We continue looking on through here. What did Byzantium end up as? Well, this might be hard to find like this, so maybe we just look at them here. They are Her Majesty's government, so I believe they started as an absolute monarchy, are now a constitutional monarchy with the Socialist Party ruling right now. So it didn't change too much. They had some communist rebels show up in the middle, but they never managed to really do all that much. I don't believe any country in the world, or at least not any major country, turned communist this game or turned fascist this game, which is really interesting. All the countries held on to being either republics or monarchies. Then if we continue on looking through here, the rest here I think is not that interesting, Well, maybe we can look at Byzantine's laws. They have outlawed slavery, have universal suffrage, have an appointed upper house, free press even, illegal trade unions, and secret ballots. In terms of their social reforms, they have a minimum wage, they have a 14-hour workday. So yeah, they passed quite a lot of social reforms, even good healthcare. Yeah, good for them. In terms of their population here, Byzantium, let's just see. Byzantium has very decent sized aristocratic population, decent sized fourth most artisans, fourth most bureaucrats, fourth most capitalists. Yeah, okay, I believe throughout the bank pretty much fourth most of everything, it looks like. Auto saving right now, yeah, fourth most here, fourth most here. Well, fifth most craftsmen, so not the strongest industry as we saw. Third most farmers though, so still very agricultural economy, like above average amount of farmers compared to other countries, but below average amount of craftsmen compared to other countries, as we saw in the beginning. Sixth most laborers, so again, not the strongest of industrial economies. Also not that many officers, which just reflects their pretty weak army here at the end of the game. No slaves, obviously, because they outlawed slavery. Only 5 countries in the world still have slavery, apparently. And the fifth most soldiers. So yeah, that's pretty much the statistics. There's about 1.5 years or so, or 2 years left to the game, so I don't think anything much interesting is gonna happen here. Yeah, anything else we can look at here? Well, their cores, as I said before, managed to reconquer most of it. Interesting that they never wanted to go into North Africa. I believe that's mostly due to this bugged war that Tripoli is in, and well, Tripoli was never attacked by Byzantium, and then Byzantium never really wanted to expand further over here, even though they had provinces here, so that's kind of weird. But yeah, overall I think this was a really fun campaign, really fun to watch what Byzantium was doing. I definitely think at least the first 80 or so years were a lot more eventful even than your average Victoria campaign, and your average Victoria campaign is already quite eventful. So I definitely think adding Byzantium, just like adding Poland, Lithuania, really made the game more interesting. Just because usually in base game, the Ottomans, you know, sick man of Europe, not a strong country, not really having big influence. While this campaign with high literacy, lots of accepted pops, Byzantium was actually able to do a lot in this game and to, well, really have a big impact on the world in this game. I'm just quickly gonna go through the different map modes here, see if there's anything interesting we can look at with Byzantium. Well, most of these, of course, we can't really see because we're not playing as them. So let's see what we can see. Well, there's no big crisis brewing in Byzantium. In terms of their relations, they like Russia the most by the end of the game, even though Germany was the best friend for the longest time, but that of course all changed by the end. They're of course civilized. How's the migration looking? Yeah, everyone's leaving Europe, but that's as you would expect in this game. And there we go, game's over. Can we really quickly go for the other? Yeah. In terms of great powers, we know not in the absolute top. The party loyalty, pretty mixed between liberals and conservatives, it looks like. And their sphere of influence, they managed to sphere Persia, Iraq, Hejaz, Ethiopia, and the Romanian miners, so pretty good sphere they built up. Their nationality hasn't really changed all that much. Greek spread a little bit over here, but otherwise looks pretty unchanged for the Byzantines. Population density, most of the population lives in Egypt, which is interesting, I think, and a tiny bit of the population lives in Constantinople over here. And Archiopo, well, that didn't change, of course. So yeah, that's everything I think that is interesting to look at with Byzantium here. Before we end this campaign completely, there's one more tiny thing I want to do, so I'll just quickly set that up and then get back to you, and then we're going to end this campaign. But already, thank you so much for watching, and yeah, I'll see you in a bit. Hey everyone, so just a little reminder, this is the end of part 2 of our Byzantium campaign. But I'll upload a little bonus video very soon that is gonna have a very interesting big event in it. So if you haven't subscribed already, please subscribe so you're gonna be notified when the bonus video goes live. And with all that said, thank you so much for watching part 2, and I'll see you in the bonus video.